Hey everyone, it's Joy here, and I am so excited to share two different ways to foil your cardstock. One is using the Foil It cardstock pieces, and the second way is using the glitter grab to foil, and both of these are going to require the Mink machine. So I'm starting with the Miss Daisy stencil on a piece of sugar cube cardstock, and this is what we're going to use the glitter grab on. I'm doing this first so I can put it aside while we work on the second card, and then this can dry before we do some foiling. So I'm just going to give it a quick stir and then just use my palette knife to run it across the stencil. I am making sure it's not too thick because I don't want it to take forever to dry, but I am getting a nice even coat. So I'm just going to run this down the whole stencil. Obviously, if you didn't want it on the whole stencil, you could just do it on part of the stencil, and then you would just have little areas that were being foiled. So I'm going to finish up that little area, and when I peel this back, you're going to see, number one, this is just gorgeous as it is, and you can use this with glitter, but like I said, we're going to be using it with foil. So I'm going to peel this back and then put this aside, and we can start on the second card. So here is the Diagonal Diamonds Foil It sheets, and I will be using the emerald green foil, and I'm going to trim this down. I will put this in my carrier machine. My Mink machine is nice and ready to get hot. This is Deco Foil. This is the emerald watercolor specifically is what it's called. I'm going to put my sheet down, the shiny side up for the foil, and then run that through the Mink machine. And then when I peel this back, we're going to have this beautiful emerald watercolor foil on this Diagonal Diamonds piece of cardstock. And I have a paintbrush that I use to just lightly brush off any excess foiling. Now for this card, I am using the super cute Peppermint Kisses stencil and die combo. I have die cut two of these candy canes from a sugar cube cardstock. I'm using Cherry Pop ink and a bitty blender brush to blend this. I'm going to do both of these because I want both of them on my card. I loved the idea of having the red and white against the green Diagonal Diamonds background because it kind of reminds me of a plaid, and so it just absolutely spoke Christmas to me. So that is why I'm bringing in these cute candy canes. Then I want to ink blend the little holly berries and leaves, and I will be using for the green cilantro. And again, just blending that with a bitty blender brush. I'm just going to use 3 of these. I die cut this twice so I could get 3 leaves. I don't need 4. I'm just going to use 3 for this project today. Then I'm going to glue my 2 candy canes together, and then I can adhere the leaves and berries on. I also trimmed down a piece of vellum. I believe it was about a 2.5 by 2.5 inch square, but I'm going to turn it on the diagonal, just kind of following along with our background. And this is going to be behind the candy canes. It's going to kind of diffuse the background so it's not so busy, because I think adding the candy canes to that diagonal background is just going to look too busy. So adding a little piece of vellum is going to soften that behind your candy canes. So I do want this popped up, so I will use some foam sticky strips behind the candy canes. I've already adhered those with liquid glue to that piece of vellum. And now I can hide my foam sticky strips behind the candy cane so you won't see it through the piece of vellum. And then I will just center that in the middle of that background foiled piece. Isn't that so super cute? Then I want to add the sentiment. This is from, and it was already in my stash, the Simple Strips Christmas, and it says celebrate the season, and I popped it up with some foam sticky strips. And then I want to adhere this to a white A2 side card base with a Cherry Pop matte behind it, just to bring in a little bit more of that red. And then this card is finished, and look at that gorgeous foiling in the background. I absolutely love this. Now we can go back to that first part of the video where we did the stenciling with the glitter grab, and now we can foil with that. I will be using the Mystic Rainbows Deco Foil. I'm going to trim down that piece. I will have my carrier sheet again. My Mink machine is warming up. Once it turns green, then it's ready to go. My foil with the pretty side up is on that stenciled background. And then let's peel this back and see how gorgeous it is. Look at how that glitter grab just takes that foil. It is so fantastic, you guys. Look at how pretty that is. Okay, let's get to going on this card. I have another piece of vellum, and I am using the farmhouse wreath. I'm going to stamp that on my vellum with Versamark ink and then use gold embossing powder. I'm going to sprinkle that on and then heat that with my heat tool. I do already have my heat tool warming up so I can have minimum warping on my cardstock and my vellum, of course. And then on that farmhouse wreath, there's other things that you can stamp for different holidays. I'm going to stamp the snowflakes because I want this to have a Christmas time feel without it actually being a Christmas card. So I've got the snowflakes there. I'm going to do some embossing again. So my Versamark ink, I prepped it with a powder tool. And then I'm going to sprinkle on the white embossing powder. So now we're going to have a contrast between the gold and the white. I was pressing down really good to make sure that the snowflakes, all the little pieces were actually hitting because they're going over the already embossed image. But it totally worked. And then I'm going to heat that with my heat tool. And now we have the gold and white wreath. I trimmed that down along with that foiled background. I trimmed down a bit smaller than an A2 size. And then the vellum piece with the wreath, I just trimmed around it to make basically a square. I have my sentiment that says, "From our house to yours." This is from the Simple Strips Christmas. I have foam tape behind the sentiment and then foam tape behind the piece of vellum. And I'm going to center this in my background piece. And then I can adhere this to a white A2 size card base. We've got this fantastic foiled card, and then you can also see the colors through the vellum. So I just think it gives you this great kind of two-tone look. It is super, super pretty. So here is that finished card, and look at all that gorgeous foiling. And again, that is with that glitter grab. Thank you guys so very much for stopping by and watching. I hope you enjoyed these two projects, and I hope that you feel inspired. You can find all of these products at the Tailored Expressions web store at tailoredexpressions.com.